hardly see my trailer there in the distance. I'm parked next to a tanker guy over there. But yeah, these lights come in handy, you know, like these ones on the left here. See, like I push it and right away there's, see, the change in the dark. It's pretty nifty. But anyway, I think the problem, you know what the problem with YouTube is? I'll tell you what the problem with YouTube is. There's too many damn videos that are too positive. Okay? That's what the problem is. Like, we are not like that, right? Like, our lives are not all that positive and beautiful. It's especially at what is this, 7? No, it's 6:37. Ah, that's why. It's 6:34 local time in this miserable place. Nothing works. Nothing works right on this Thanksgiving Monday. I thought I'd be on the road by now. I have my GoPros charged. And speaking about GoPros, like, I'm telling you, I'm recording with this 9 just out of curiosity, because if you saw the previous video, which was called Volvo 380 British Columbia Day 2, at the very end, as I always do when I'm unloading, I put the camera in my head, because the guy said, yeah, we'll help you unload, but they were busy in the shop. And so, you know, I thought, hey, I'm gonna, you know, get some extra footage for my YouTube video from this. And so I put the camera on my head. I disconnected everything. I had some trouble with the trail. I couldn't back up because there was a loader there, like cat loader, right? I have cat key. I have a couple of Caterpillar keys, and I don't know if you know, but the Caterpillar key opens any Caterpillar machine. So basically, one key I can start any Caterpillar loader, excavator. So I'm not sure how everybody's not stealing them, because it's just nuts. The same key. Whereas for the Volvo, by the way, I heard one guy ask this question, and he says they're different depending on the options you chose. Like on the, I think it's somehow it's connected to the specs of the machine you're buying, you know. Like some bigger machines will have a different key, you know, at least it's more difficult to steal. But Caterpillar, and I think John Deere, yeah, my charger was, why is my charger connected? And so yeah, so I went inside, I asked him, I said, can you guys move this loader, because I cannot hook up. Basically, you know, when I drag my Jeep away, and then I have to hook back to the trailer and use the big timber so I can drag the neck away. And when I was trying to connect to the trailer, it was super hard because it was very tight there. You know, I had to go more or less on a straight line when I arrived, right, to unload. And this loader is right there. And so they said, no, I know, they said, we'll be with you in a second. So they were busy. So I found my key, I found the master switch. I couldn't find, took me a while to find the parking brake on that thing because it was not marked anywhere, because it was so old. But I found it eventually, moved that machine, like, you know, like 5 meters, you know, 15 feet. Perfect. I was able to hook back up. And it's right there. That Volvo dealer is right across the street from this Husky. And yeah, I slept late Sunday, did all my paperwork, did a bunch of paperwork I had to do. Really proud of how much I accomplished yesterday on Sunday. Like, you know, the work never stops when you're independent. Even no employees, right? It's just me and the truck. But there's so much stuff you have to do, especially at the end of the quarter, right? So September, the last day of September was the end of quarter 3. So that means fuel taxes, and the end of the month, September, I needed to do my books. And I looked at my, I only did one load. I only did one load, but I got paid by Eaton Cummins for the, my sponsor. Eaton Cummins sent me the money, and I think there was another small payment, and then YouTube paid me pretty good this month. I mean, in September, right? And so my income in September was average, nothing to write home about. This is like one guy who called me. This is what he makes with a dry van in the States. That's what I make here with a 60-ton trailer, but that's the truth. So people claim that if you drive like a maniac, if you drive 500-600 miles a day and you're just pulling a dry van in the US, you can make the same money I'm making here. The only difference is I don't have to drive that much, and I don't have to work as hard, because you see that number at the top, 315,821 kilometers, right? So that's 190 miles, 190,000 miles. So that's all I did since March 18th. I mean March 2018. So I had this truck. March 19 will be 1 year. 19, 20, 21. So March 21 was 3 years. So the truck is now 3.5 years old, and I only have that. So basically I'm doing like 100,000 kilometers a year, which is 60,000 miles, which is 2 times less than what the dry van guy does. So if we make the same money, but I'm driving 2 times less, that means that my pay is actually 2 times more, right? Because I don't have to work as hard. So it's like comparing a cheap physical labor, $8 an hour, where the guy has to work 24/7, and then somebody that makes, let's say, $16 an hour, he only has to work 8 hours a day, right? So there's still a difference, right? Otherwise, what would be the point? Why would people spend almost $500,000 on equipment? Yeah, the truck, the trailer, the Jeep, the Stinger, it's very expensive. So anyway, so yeah, I did everything, all the paperwork yesterday, and then I remembered I have some reserves, as I learned to do. Whenever I get paid, instead of using all the money on some toy like I used to do when I was young and stupid, let's say you get paid, like 5-10 grand, and right away your immature brain, you start thinking, okay, I got 10 grand, what can I buy? Okay, I have a car, not buying a car. Shall I buy a TV? No. So basically when you're like 16-20 years old, you treat all this, it's like a rainfall, right? That's it. There's no tomorrow. You don't care if you're gonna live or die in 2-3 years. You don't care about the bills. You have the money now, you gotta live your life now. And there's something in that approach as well, but that's what I was when I was like 20-21 years old. I still remember I worked on the railroad and I was making good money, but every time when I come back to the train for the next trip, I was broke, because I would make money on during the road, during the trip. There were all those well, don't get me started on that, but there was a lot of potential gray area income when you work on the railroad back in the Soviet Union. And so I come back, pockets full of money, and then I go to restaurants, I watch movies, I take a taxi cab all the way to my where I was renting a home, which was like 30 kilometers away. I would take a taxi because I didn't want to, I'm rich, so I don't want to go on a bus. So I never saved anything. And then I come back to the next trip. And our trip, I think we worked like 1 week or 2 weeks in, we did like 2 runs, I think, like Odessa, Moscow on the train, Odessa, Moscow, then back, and then again, and then we went home for a week. Actually, it was a pretty good schedule, but I'm telling you, I was always broke. And even once the boss of the train, who's the guy who's in charge of all, you know, porters or conductors. He said, Sergei, what's your goal in life? Like, what are you trying to achieve, you know? Like, goal? What goal? I'm just trying to have fun, you know? And so I was spending all the money. So now life is much more dull because of this, but now whenever I get a check, so I figured out the percentages, you know, basically I figured out what I make a year, and I know, let's say I usually owe about 10 grand to Revenue Canada, and so instead of paying that in one lump sum, right, so now I know I have to pay them at least $1,000 a month, right? And so now I treat that as a bill, and I know, okay, so $1,000, I mean 10,000 divided by my average gross income times 100%, and I see what it is. And so from each paycheck I take that percentage and I pay to Revenue Canada, because the good thing is, I don't know in the States, but in Canada you can pay anytime you want, right? You set up your account online, so I can pay them, you know, daily, weekly, monthly. Actually they require me to pay quarterly, but I pay from every paycheck, and this is the second year I started doing this. And I have this, and I do the same thing with my credit cards, lines of credit, you know. And this way you always have money somewhere, right? Where a situation like this, right, I deliver a load Saturday, and it's a long weekend in Canada, right? So Monday is, today is Thanksgiving, so all banks are closed, my factoring company is closed, so I spent a lot of money, like that pilot, right? There was $2,200 Canadian, one pilot, 2200, 2,200 Canadian. And the fuel, I lost count how much times I fueled, because, you know, heavy load, big hills. So I spent a lot of money on that trip, but I'm gonna be paid pretty handsomely, but only tomorrow. And so I looked up at my, you know, reserves, and I see, hey, I have some money sitting here at one of the banks that I use for the reserve, you know, savings. And so I go there and I want to take out, let's say, $1,000 Canadian, because I wanted to leave today to get to Edmonton, and it's about 400 miles or 750 kilometers. So seven, you know, for me in metric, I don't know, it's so easy to count. I prefer this method much better, you know, when I need to evaluate how much fuel I need. So 750, like in metric, you count liters per 100 kilometers, right? And so 750 kilometers, that means that I have 7.5 stretches of 100 kilometers, right? So each 100 kilometers, when I'm empty, if I'm just with a truck and trailer, basic setup, with no Jeep, no Stinger, I usually do empty about 32-35 liters per 100 kilometers. But over here there's mountains, right? Even though I'm empty, plus I have the Jeep, I'm still almost 74,000 pounds, so let's say 45 liters per 100 kilometers. And as I mentioned before, we have 7.5 stretches of 100 kilometers to Edmonton, right? So all I gotta do is take 45 liters times 7.5, right? And that's what I need to reach Edmonton. And so I go to the bank, I want to take out $1,000 Canadian, and the bank is closed, but the ATM is open, and the machine says, sorry, your limit is $400. Okay, I take out $400 and put the card back in. It says, sorry, you exceeded your limit. I hate that bank. I'm not gonna say its name, but it rhymes with nausea bank. You know, nausea. That's what it rhymes with. I hate that bank, but I had that account with them a long time ago. I don't use it actively, just for savings, you know. But that's a stupid bank. They open at like 9:30, they close at 4. They're not open on weekends, you know, where my main bank is open like 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening. It's open even on Sunday until 3. So anyway, I figured, okay, so I have a limit for $100, right? So that it probably a day, I'm pretty sure. And so today is Monday. I wake up at 8:30 my time, which is 5:30 here. I throw around my kettlebell, did like 3 exercises, push-ups, bent row, and squats. That's it. That's all I did. Went inside, brushed my face, got some coffee, and I'm still disconnected from the trailer. And I drove that way south. That's where we came. We came from the south, right, from US yesterday. And we drove this way. That's north. That's 97 actually. And Volvo is right there where I unloaded. And so, oh, somebody's doing a circle check. And then the downtown is like 3 kilometers that way. You have to cross the river. And so there's no signs there. You can park on the street. You know, that's the beauty of small towns, right? Like there's parking everywhere. And right across from that bank, there's a Royal Mountain Police, like Ontario Police. But I found a place where it says parking 30 minutes, 7 to 5. But I didn't realize that it was still 6:30. Anyway, I parked there. I walk to the bank. I pull on the door, like the lobby is lit, right? Just like yesterday. I pull on the door is locked. What? I look for, like, is there anywhere I can put my card in, you know? I see a slot for the card. I put my card in, and usually you hear a click. You know, like in a hotel, right? When you use one of the back entrances, it'll say, please use your room key. And usually you put in your key. If the lock works, you'll hear a click and the door is, you know, ready to be pulled, right? Like here, I put it in, nothing happens. I push the red button for like a wheelchair access next to it. I hear a click, but the door still stays closed. I'm like, what the heck, you know? Why would you lock the ATM lobby? But that just tells you, because there's a lot of bums here. Like downtown, there's a lot of homeless people that just roam around right next to the mounted police station. I guess that might be the reason, because I figured, okay, my bank, this bank, they have ATMs at 7-Eleven. You know, you guys have 7-Eleven in the States, right? We have it in here. And they have ATMs. And so I punch in my Google tablet 7-Eleven, and it comes up with locations. I click on that, and that's, again, that's the beauty of internet enabled tablet, right? So it shows me locations, and I see there's one like 1 kilometer away. Okay, I drive over there. I see it's all light inside. I see a woman running around doing something. I pull on the door, it's locked. And I left my phone in the truck. But I know it's about 7 o'clock. I'm thinking, what? She opens at 8? 7-Eleven usually open 24/7, right? Some girl comes over, and I said, do you know what time they open? And that girl is all shivering because she has, like, I don't know, a t-shirt and a super light sweater, and she's like, oh. And it's chilly. It was like 1 degree Celsius, you know, 32 F. And I start motioning to that woman because she's looking at me, and she's looking at me kind of like surprised. I'm like, what the heck? Why are you surprised? You know, a customer shows up at your door, and the girl says, push the button. I push the button. There's turns out there's a ringer there. I push the button, and I see that woman reaches under the counter and she does something, and the door clicks, and I walk in. I said, your door is locked. And she's like looking at me kind of like strange, and she says, yeah, it's always locked. So that you open? She's like, yeah. And she looks at me because I walk into the aisles there. I'm looking for the bank machine, for the ATM. I said, do you have an ATM? She says, yeah, on the other side there. Okay, I go there. Sure enough, it's my brand bank ATM, so I should be able to take money from that one. But life would be too easy, right? And that's why I started this video saying that there's too many positive videos, whereas the life of most people is not like that, right? Usually it's all hardships and sorrow and tears down your cheeks. Well, not always, but often. So I go there, I put in my card, I remember my PIN. It says choose your account: checking, savings, credit card. And I remember, shoot, I remember I had the trouble last time with this, because my account is none of those. It's a line of credit. So checking, savings, credit card. I used to have a credit card with them, but I don't anymore. And I'm thinking, okay, let me try savings. I click savings, punch in $400 because that's what they allowed me last time, right? It says, the machine thinks for a couple of seconds, kind of like, are you an idiot? And then it says, transaction canceled, improper type of an account. Then I click on credit card and get the same message, are you an idiot, you know, pretty much. But there's no line of credit. And so I can do that only at the bank. That's why I drove to that stupid bank in the first place. Oh man, and yesterday I used up the entire $400 at this Husky over here. I went in, I said, give me $400 worth of fuel, but I don't want to leave, because that was the plan today. The plan today was leave and drive, but you see I got half a tank here and slightly over half a tank there. I don't like it, you know. It's not enough, especially with mountains, to reach Edmonton. And I don't want to get stuck somewhere. So I figured, son of a gun, I'm gonna stay in this miserable place one more day, because then I'll be paid tomorrow and nobody will get hurt, because I'm about to lose it here. But I don't want to do a load out of here. Like, at least that's what I decided to do, because if I was driving all day, I wouldn't be able to check out the load board. But today is Monday in the States, it's not a holiday, so the load board is open. So the brokers, even though they're half drunk coming back from the weekend, but they should be putting in some loads on the board, you know, on my American board. So I'll start looking today for a load out of, let's say, Edmonton, you know, Calgary. Maybe there's something going to US, or maybe there's something from US back to Canada. Maybe there's something again in Las Vegas, you never know. I'll go back to Las Vegas. If there's a load, let's say Las Vegas to Ontario, I'll go. I don't care. But I don't want to do a load out of here under no circumstances anymore. This was my last load in British Columbia, because if British Columbia Ministry of Transportation is watching this, okay, here's a message, a feedback from a trucker. Your rules suck, okay? I don't know how to put it more gently, but your rules for heavy haul are kind of like 17th century, whereas the entire country moved on. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, I have no problem, right? I come to BC, I have a problem. Second, you have too many mountains. So unless you make them flatter, I'm not coming back. And so too much shifting and too much money spent on fuel because of this. And number three, pilots are going nuts, unrestricted, $1.75 per kilometer. Now let me tell you guys again, because last time I was kind of like struggling with the math over here. $1.75 Canadian per 1 kilometer, and we know that there's 1.609 kilometers in a mile. So that's what they charge here, 2.81 Canadian dollars per mile, divided by 1.25. That's 225 a mile US. So that's US dollars, right? Whereas in the States it's like $1.50, $1.55. And so imagine this, right? So 225 times, let's say 600 miles. That's what they want. It's like nuts, you know, $13.51. And that's why I paid yesterday 2,200 Canadian divided by 1.25, so I paid like $17.60 just for the pilot. The only good news was that for some reason my permit was $85, because she told me on the phone, your axles are legal, whatever that means in BC. The only axle that's you over on is your steer axle. So I said, you want me to take off the steer axle and then I'm all legal and I don't need a permit? So yeah, I can only come in here empty. That's my plan, or leave empty, but I'm not loading here again. It's just too crazy with these pilots. Oh, and of course they charge you, like I mentioned in the previous video. I think it's totally crazy that they charge you both ways, all right? Again, they don't do this in the US, right? Even though, let's say, my typical route over there that I complain about because it's expensive, let's say Baltimore, Maryland to PA line, 41 miles, a pilot will charge you $350 US, right? But they don't charge you, return. They don't charge you $700. They charge you $350. I don't care what this guy does after he drops me at the PA line, right? But over here, right, so they charge you all the way back, like 7 hours from Prince George back to Kamloops, where this guy lives, where his company is located. It's just crazy. So, like, again, using that logic, I should charge my customer the return trip to Ontario. I should charge him, let's say I was where? I was in Red Deer. I went from Red Deer to Las Vegas. From Las Vegas, I went loaded to Prince George. But I'm from Ontario, right? My yard is in Ontario, just like this guy's yard, the pilot's yard, is in Kamloops. So he doesn't care. He came from Kamloops to Osayus, then took me to Prince George, and now he goes back to Kamloops. So he charges me for all that. So I should have charged the customer for the excavator 1,300 miles empty to Las Vegas, 1,600 miles loaded to Prince George, and then 2,600 miles empty to Cambridge. But nobody's gonna do that in the trucking world, right? Because they would say, are you crazy? We're not gonna pay you for 4,000, what is it, like 5,000 miles, right? Yeah, I want $50,000. What's wrong with that? Oh, and I asked this guy. I just asked him a simple question. I said, why are you guys so expensive? Why your pilots are more even than in Alberta and Manitoba, Saskatchewan? And at first he said, well, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of oversized work. So okay, so there's a demand, right, for pilots. But then he said something interesting, and I think that's the true reason why they're so expensive. He says, well, everything here is expensive. He says, food, food, liquor, gas, diesel, just the cost of living is high. And so he says, that's why he needs to charge me more so that he can afford his milk and buns, And that's one of the reasons why I refuse to work here. I don't wanna supply people's food obsessions, with my hard-earned money over here. It's like California, right? Like, because it's on the ocean, like if you travel, maybe like 5-6 hours to the west, there'll be Terrace, where I was last time, and then there's the ocean over there. So the weather's pretty mild. So anyway, so I decided to stay here one more day and wait till I get paid for the trip, and I can use this time off to finish my paperwork. I can prepare all my checks that I have to send out tomorrow, prepare envelopes, for IFTA, plates, plates renewal for the truck. So I'll find something to do. And time now is 10:06. Oh man, it's still 7:06 here. I know the restaurant opens at 8 local time. Maybe I'll go grab another coffee, and I'll just play with my computer. or I'll upload the video. Yeah, there's always something to do, you know, when you're a trucker. So that's my Monday grumpy update from Prince George, BC. I hope your Monday is better. Ciao.